千里之行，始于足下. A journey of 1,000 miles begins beneath the feet. We now gather in the Tao to travel the journey together. Derek, thanks for demonstrating the big difference that the right interpretation can make. Just out of curiosity, what are the bad interpretations for doors and ropes? So you guys may recall that after we got done talking about leaving marks on the road as you journey through life, and how that can be different when you interpret that as a physical journey versus the journey of life. There's a couple more lines after that, lines 4 and 5, that are about a door. A good closure is something that doesn't require a lock and yet cannot be opened. And a good knot, a good connection is something that does not require ropes and yet cannot be untied. So as mentioned last time, these lines have also been misinterpreted as referring to actual physical objects, like an actual door, actual ropes, etc. And the result can be strange, to say the least. So last time I actually created the slides already to talk about those lines. I decided to keep them out of the final presentation because I didn't want to belabor the point. I felt like everyone already got the point quite well when we talked about good travel, good speech, good counting, good reckoning. So that was already making the point for me. Didn't need to go over it too many more times. Now, of course, I'm more than happy to show these slides that were created for last time if people are interested. And in this case, it won't take any more than 10 minutes to go through them. And it's really more of a reinforcement of this major central point that I think is already clear for everybody. So we can look at them as entertainment, because when authors, quote unquote, translate but don't know the original language, they are likely to fail in spectacular fashion. So to remind everyone, the gentleman who asked the question was referring to lines 4 and 5. Good closure needs no bar and yet cannot be opened. Good knot needs no rope and yet cannot be untied. These are fairly literal translations of the original, and the proper interpretation is that this is not talking about an actual door that has no lock on it but cannot be opened. This is not actually talking about actual ropes and knots that cannot be untied. So in the same format that I showed the previous misinterpretations, I have a slide that says this does not mean, and this is referring to line 4, the good closure needs no bar and cannot be untied. It's all about being skillful in relationships, just as you see in the title. But this is not usually understood by many translators. So one translation goes like, a good door needs no lock, yet no one can open it. So let's pause for a moment and think about what that means. A good door needs no lock, and yet no one can open it? Can you imagine an actual door like that? So question, how is that a good door? If no one can open it, that's not even a door. So that doesn't pass the real world test. Another translation says, a well-made door is easy to open and needs no locks. Okay, I can see the first part of it. A well-made door is easy to open. It's not squeaky. It doesn't resist when you try to open it. It's very well made. Okay, cool. But a well-made door needs no locks? Well, that doesn't accord with reality. So why would a well-made door not need locks? I know that some doors don't need locks, but other doors do. So that doesn't really match reality either. So this is all because of a lack of understanding that good here, door here, no, lock here, and cannot open. So yet another translation, mistranslation, says you could build a door with no lock that nobody could open. Okay, well, you probably could, but again, what you have built is more like a wall instead of a door. I think it's obvious by now that assuming the door to literally mean a physical door is simply wrong. It doesn't get us anywhere. So let's go to the next slide. What it actually means. It doesn't mean an actual door. What it actually means is when you have a really good group of people, whether it's family, your team, workforce, and so on, coworkers, and so on, nobody wants to leave. Everyone wants to stay together. It is as if you're all in a room. There's no lock on the door, and no one wants to open that door and walk away as if there was a lock on it, when there actually isn't. So the love that keeps everyone together is stronger than any locking mechanism. So that's what it actually means. And I would say that if you look at real life, when you have a great group of people who like to stick around, stick together, hang out, chill together, you see this in everyday life. So this passes the real world test. And it's not literal, it's metaphorical, and that passes the other test. So this is on its way to becoming a very good interpretation, likely to be true. And we can also observe from the real world that when you have a great group of people like that, if you were to belong to a great group of people like that, then you can see that for whatever reason, the people that need to leave, maybe temporarily, they're going to do everything they can to come back to the group as soon as they can. That's the power of a great group, a great family. Indeed, everyone may be so close that you start to refer to it as your family. If you have a group of great coworkers, that's your family at work. Okay, so what about line 5? Line 5 is the same. Good knot needs no rope and yet cannot be untied. So again, it's not literal. So what this does not mean, what we can see is that many translations revealed the fact, inadvertently revealed the fact that they don't really know what the original means, so they've chosen to translate in a way that will be difficult to understand in a context other than the physical. One translation, you could tie something down with no knots, without even a rope, and nobody could pry it loose. What? Tie something down without even a rope, and no one can pry it loose? Think about that. Okay, it's definitely not the real world. It sounds more like some kind of magic power, like a psychokinetic superhero power or something like that. So this is not likely to be the correct interpretation. Another translation, someone who is good with ropes can tie someone down without ropes or knots. Okay, with what then? Again, same problem as the first example. So it just doesn't work if you assume ropes and knots to be the literal physical objects. That's not what Lao Tzu meant. Easy to see. And let's go over what it actually means. We talked about this several times in our last meeting, so I'll just reiterate to drive home the point that I think everyone already knows. Just like the previous line, this line is really about the power of strong relationships, not the objects, not the door, not the ropes, not the knots. It's not about that. When you have a really strong connection with someone, perhaps a member of your family or a close personal friend, and I think we all know that sometimes we have such good close friends in life, they feel closer to you than family. When you have something like that, it is to be valued because nothing can break that connection. So in real life, you've seen this. You've seen how it doesn't matter how far apart you may be from someone like that who is close to you. Suppose you were to be away from that person, or that person is somehow apart from you. The connection will always bring you back together, sooner or later. So this is the binding knot without rope, without knots that can never be untied. So again, I'm repeating the same point, and this shows you the difference between the right interpretation and interpretation that doesn't really get the original, or actually doesn't even get the way that Lao Zi usually writes and speaks. A lot of metaphors. Our meeting has come to an end, but the journey continues on. Let us travel safely. Until next time, may the Tao fill you with peace and happiness.